Last term I started focusing on integrating more ICT into my literacy program. So I chose to use my reading program. I had identified that my students needed to work on their comprehension and started by grouping them into ability groups. We then went through the reciprocal reading process, so each child has a role in the group. They work through clarifying, summarising, and taking on the role of a teacher, or we call them the reader leader. And they did this independently. They were responsible for managing their timetable throughout the week, so they decided when they got together as a group and when they worked on their response activities. The response activities were based on the Effective Literacy Practices for Years 5 to 8 ministry booklet that outlines the 9 comprehension strategies, from making connections all the way through to analysing and synthesising. So my students know what each of those strategies are. They are aware of the learning intention behind them, and they had a generic activity. So there were 4 groups, 4 novels, and each group had their reader leading time and then the response time. So they had a little booklet they worked through and created draft copies of each activity, and then they sat down with me. We had conferencing and discussed whether it was meeting the learning intention for that particular activity, and when they got the okay, they were then responsible for a wiki, and we used wet paint wikis. All that I did for them was give them the wiki name, the address and a log-on. They were then responsible for creating all of the content, so they had to come up with a title page. They had to explain to the audience what each of the 9 comprehension activities were about, and then each student in the group, so the groups range from 4 to 8, and these are year 5 and 6 students, so they're 9 and 10 years old. Each group then created their own content. So, for example, one of the reading comprehension activities was creating mental images. So they could use either ArtRage, which is a downloadable program, or KidPix to create an image that related to their story. They then had to work out how to get that onto the wiki and explain what it represented. Another example was analysing and synthesising. They had to go onto the New Zealand Herald website and find a news article that related to the theme of the story that they were working with, and explain why that story was related. And so now, at the end of it, they'll have a resource on their novel that they'll be able to share with the world, and all created by them. In response to an enterprise unit, my year 5 and 6 students decided that they wanted to make a difference to their world, and they chose the topic of Kenya. We were able to contact a group of children in the Korogocho slum, which is in Nairobi, and we were pretty stunned at the way that they lived their lives, and had an opportunity to begin to form relationships using Web 2. So we have created a wiki called Kiwis for Kenya, and we are inviting students from all over New Zealand to be part of this. We've got kids from all around Kenya now that are looking for pen pals and friends and opportunities for fundraising. My kids wanted to know what it actually looked like to live in the slum in Kenya, and when we asked for photos, they said, well, we can't do that, we don't have the technology available. So my students began an enterprise unit and looked at how they could raise money in order to buy some digital cameras that the Kenyan children could use. So we formed a company, and in the process at the moment of publishing a recipe book that the proceeds are going to be used for. We were also able to get some companies on board to help to donate cameras. We have sent the cameras over now, and we are receiving photos of the children at play in the classroom, and it's all available on the